Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Coffee with Craig, where we talk about all things firearms, firearms policy, politics, culture, media, you name it. We're talking about it right here on Coffee with Craig. So please take a moment, like and share the programs, and let your friends know exactly where the conversation is taking place. Also, if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook. And in both cases, make sure you click the notification button so that you can get notifications as soon as we go live and you can participate in the live chat as the program is going on. Also, if you get a chance, please visit fpcgear.com. That's fpcgear.com. It is the place to go to find your Pro 2A swag. T-shirts, coffee mugs, hoodies, you name it. It's all right there at fpcgear.com. And the best part about it is every dollar that you spend goes right back into the fight for our right to keep and bear arms. So you can support the Second Amendment and you can look good doing it. It's fpcgear.com. Well, folks, 2020 is here. And as we know, in particular in the state of California, the beginning of every year oftentimes means the beginning of new laws. In this case, new gun laws. So I wanted to take some time and go over some of the new laws that are going to be taking place, are going to be taking effect in the state of California. Now, we know that a number of anti-gun bills passed during this last legislative session. Not all of them take effect immediately. So all the only ones I'm really going to be talking about right now are the ones that are going to be starting and taking place or taking effect specifically this year. All right. So let's move on. All right. So one of the first ones that in fact will be taking place is going to have to do with the GVR Roe Extension. Now, what do I mean by a GVR Roe Extension? In essence, what it means is it's going to extend the duration of a gun violence restraining order, or GVRO, aka red flag law, to a maximum of 5 years from 1 year. That's right. Currently, the law is the maximum, or at least the length of it. So you go to court, or let me take a step back. First, they go to court. You're not there in an ex parte hearing. You lose your rights. Within 21, they come, they take your guns, they take your rights. Then you're supposed to go to court. At that point, if they deem that there is sufficient enough evidence for you to continue to lose your rights, that goes up. They can extend it up to 1 year, meaning in a year you get to go back to court and get your rights back, or at the very least, it just expires in a year. So if they don't go back to court and renew it at the end of that year, then you get your rights back at the end. You get your rights and your guns, or supposedly your guns, you get them back at the end of the year. This would extend it to 5 years. All right? Now I want you to understand how dangerous that is. Number one, you've committed absolutely no crime, but yet you lose your right for up to 5 years. Right? So now the onus is now put on, coming up to that year, now the onus is put on you, the law-abiding citizen who's committed no crime. You're the one that now has to go back to court and get the courts to actually accept and accept your opportunity to plead to get your rights back. All right, that's one. But there was also an additional law that was passed relating to gun violence restraining orders. And that, by the way, that starts in September of 2020. But then there's a GVR Roe expansion. Okay, what does that expansion look like? That expansion means it allows an employer, coworker, employee, or teacher to file a petition restricting your guns, requesting that your guns be confiscated without due process. So in other words, basically it expands who can request a gun violence restraining order. All right. So if someone is a teacher at a school that you taught at 6 months ago, right, or that you went to school at 6 months ago, they can request a gun violence restraining order. If they're an employee with your employer, they can request a gun violence restraining order. I mean, we're talking it's dramatically increased who can request them. So in the world of gun violence restraining orders, and keep in mind, the only way in which they measure the success of these things is based on how many guns they confiscate. Because we've already seen with the current law in place, there have been mass shootings, there have been suicides, and, well, this hasn't had any effect. But with that, now they want to expand who can do it. They want to make it so that more people, not just not just family members and law enforcement. They want to make sure a whole world of people can do it. And they also want to make sure that you lose your rights for an extended period of time. And oh, by the way, just so you know, once again, we've done a study here at the Firearms Policy Coalition, and we've determined that 60% of the people, even this is the people who've been deemed that, yeah, no, you shouldn't have had your rights taken, 60% of them don't get their firearms back. So if you want to know that this is unconstitutional gun confiscation, folks, that's exactly what it is. So anyway, that's what's happening in the world of red flag laws in the state of California. That law also will be going into effect in September of 2020. All right, moving right along. Next, we have some stuff relating to, it's part relating to gun shows. So specifically ammunition sales. So we have applies the same gun show regulations that already apply to firearm dealers to ammunition vendors as well. So in other words, they're making it harder for folks at gun shows to be able to sell ammunition. To make a long story short on that one. But here's one that you really want to be careful of. So, higher background check fees. Now, this is important because what they're trying to do is they're trying to price people out of the ability to be able to exercise their right to keep and bear arms. It authorizes DOJ to charge additional fee up to $31.19 to be deposited into DROS. Now, why do they need more money for DROS, you ask? Because they've already determined that they're making money hand over fist on DROS. In fact, they've raided the DROS fund a number of times in order to pay for other programs that have nothing to do with the dealer record of sale. Once again, keep in mind, folks, this is a fee. And this is important for you guys to understand. This is a fee. And fees are supposed to go to pay for something. You pay for something, right? I need a background check. I go to pay a fee. Well, see, they're using DROS money for stuff that has nothing to do with your purchase of a firearm. And so included with this, they've actually now included in the law, it expands the list of regulatory and enforcement activities which DOJ can use to spend its DROS supplemental account funds to include manufacturing unlawful or lawful. Now, what does that mean? In other words, they now want to use DROS money to go after those who manufacture firearms, both legally and, in their eyes, illegally. So, in other words, they want to use the money that you're supposed to use to pay a background check to enforce the law, something that has absolutely nothing to do with the dealer record of sale. Folks, that's a tax. It's not a fee. But it is law in the state of California. And that's the law that we now have to pay for. And mind you, it doesn't, the list of what is considered enforcement. And I told you guys this was going to happen even with CCWs. I told you that if they increase the fee, the next thing is going to be is they want to increase the fee because they want to now basically tax gun owners to have law enforcement take their rights away from them. In other words, they want to use our money to go after criminals who use guns, right? Just like they don't go after car owners to go after people to spend money against people who speed, right? No, they don't do that. No, they want to go after us. They want law-abiding gun owners to spend money to spend their money. They want to tax. We all know their whole attitude is this: as long as we're taxing those people, we're okay. It's okay if you're taxing someone else. Just hey, don't tax us. All right, moving right along, and this is something. Well, actually, I just hit on just a second ago, and this has to do with higher CCW fees. They have a law that eliminated the existing $100 limit on processing fees for concealed carry licenses, meaning sheriffs can hike it up as much as they like. But what does that mean, they can hike it up as much as they like? Well, one of the things that they're doing is they're saying that they actually have to increase the fee to cover the cost of issuing it plus enforcement. And now they're adding a whole bunch of stuff that is going to be considered enforcing, like going after people who misuse their concealed carry permit. Like anything having to do with anyone who uses a gun is now going to be considered part of enforcement. All of that is going to be considered part of enforcement. And therefore, what they're going to do is they're going to raise the fee. And by raising the fee, they're going to price those, many, many people out of their ability to be able to exercise their fundamental right to keep and bear arms. Now, mind you, I am sure that there are attorneys that are looking at these various pieces of legislation. In some cases, they're looking at how it's going to be implemented. And, we are hoping that there are going to be opportunities for legal action. Not saying there will be, saying that we're hoping that there will be. But it's important for us to know that this is just the tip of the iceberg. This is just the very beginning. With the legislature about to come back in session, I'm sure there's going to be more. So once again, now you guys have a better idea of what laws are going to be in place coming up in 2020. You guys take care. Thank you so much for tuning in to Coffee with Craig. We are the home in the fight for civil rights. Got to use them or you're going to lose them. You guys take care.
If you like our videos, follow, subscribe, like, and share.